and tell 'em.
From other comics crossover into your strip, like Little Orphan Annie, The Shadow, The Green Hornet. Do the creative teams behind those strips have any hand or voice in how they're depicted in the Dick Tracy comic?
It depends, because the first that we did was Little Orphan Annie, and the Tribune already owns Little Orphan Annie, and she was not being used at the time, so there was no problem. They just said, "Go ahead and do whatever you'd like," and we pretty much can do whatever we want with the Tribune characters. And certainly, there's nobody left from Little Orphan Annie to be involved with the project. Some of the characters the Tribune doesn't own, we have to deal with the actual owners. We did a pretty good long continuity with the Spirit, and Dennis Kitchen, the publisher and literary agent, and Dennis pretty much controls what happens with the Spirit, and he checked in with Will Eisner's relatives, who still maintain his properties, and got us the permission to do the Spirit. So,
Which I'd like to
and
try
the
to get
Spirit
the
store.
audience right here.
Oh yeah, and Dennis actually got us the permission to do Fearless Fosdick, so it was like one-stop shopping dealing with Dennis. And Will's relatives were very pleased with what we did. We were very respectful of the Spirit, and we really loved working on that. Like I said, I was an Al Cap fan, so I really enjoyed getting Fearless Fosdick in there. And of course, in the Spirit, we had Daddy Warbucks, and we had some characters from Terry and the Pirates, and I don't know. I think Mike's philosophy is that anybody who's ever been at a comic strip works in the same universe. So he's always figuring some way to get the next bunch in. But we got a lot of them, and with the Spirit. And the funny thing is, they all pretty much worked.
I have to agree. And for characters that you only imply are in the strip for like a day or so, like for instance, when Tracy and Joe and Tess went on vacation to fish, and you see the silhouette of Olive Oil and all the references to Popeye. Is that when you don't get permission, or when you just feel you have to work around it?
A lot of time it's just that we feel like we need to work around it. At the King Features, CJ, who is in charge of things, has pretty much encouraged us to go ahead and do little tributes to their characters, and gave us like full permission with Roper and Nomad, and I thought they were great. I really like those characters. My favorite King Features character is the Phantom, and I'm not sure everybody caught that we had a crossover with the Phantom. At least we had a crossover with Mr. Walker. Tracy and the family ran into him in the airport, and Honeymoon, the little junior star, was meeting Phantom's wolf, and petting him. And so as Mr. Walker went away, but she asked Tracy, "Who was that?" And Tracy says, he's a law enforcement agent from a long line of law enforcement agents. So I thought that was a good introduction to the Phantom.
So right where my finger's pointing, that's the Phantom, right?
That is the Phantom. Yeah, that's the original version of the Phantom, I think. Yeah, Wilson McCoy, was that the artist?
I was never really into the Phantom, but I did go to the International Museum of Cartoon Art back in 1998. I actually knew more than the curators.
Oh.
As far as a comic strip from blank paper into the finished product, can you give us a timeline, what steps take and how long it takes?
Takes a lot less time than we need. But I don't know if you can see. Let's see. This is how Mike writes his scripts. He actually does like little
Hmm.
storyboards. So from Mike's storyboards, I know tight pencils
Uh-huh.
for the daily strips. Shelley Plager, who's our house editor, and she's the inker and letterer.
Mhm.
She inks everything on Cintiq on computer, so that we wind up with no finished uh, like inked pages of the dailies. That's strictly a computer file. On the Sundays, I'll link them directly, so that this is actually inked on the paper.
And
It's
we've
on.
got Stiletto Jones at the bottom with Abner Cadaver's sidekick.
Right, Ricky Mortis.
Mhm.
Actually, Ricky Mortis is actually a character who was designed by Shelley. So she's a multi talented person. If you need new characters, you need uh, anything fixed, she is great.
Is that
So,
Mayor Armstrong in the first couple of panels?
right, yes. You're. I take it you're not from Chicago, right?
I'm close.
Right.
I'm from St. Louis, Missouri, the home of Fitz's root beer, toasted ravioli, and Seven Up.
Very good. And my buddy Rick Burchett. Um, but Mayor Armstrong is based on Jane Byrne. Do you remember Jane Byrne? Was she in your time?
Well, even if she was, I was never really into politics. It's a wonder that I actually got through this election cycle alive.
Yes, but so she is a caricature of Jane Byrne, who was called Janie back in the days. But she makes it hard on Tracy sometimes.
Kind of like Wendy Witchell, but in a different way. Trying to show my audience that I practice what I preach.
So here is Ricky Mortis and Abner Cadaver again.
Uh,
There's actually they're some of my favorite characters.
and you ink that yourself?
Yeah, this is one of the Sundays, and I ink that myself.
That is absolutely beautiful, Joe.
Oh, thank you.
I mean, I wish that I could, draw as good as that. I mean, I've never really shown you my drawings, but they're not really on your level. Not a long shot, not ever.
So it goes from Mike's storyboards
Mhm.
to pencils, and Shelley uh, uh, inks on Cintiq for the dailies. She letters things, and the Sundays I ink on boards. But Shelley she letters those, also on computer. And for the Sundays, it goes to Shane Fisher, who's our colorist.
Can you show me a Sunday again, one of your Sunday boards? Because I've got another question.
Here's Mr. Méliès. He's also
Based, based off of the movie character from the early 1900s.
so everybody knows he's eventually got to get a bullet in the eye, right?
Yeah, like with a lot of the Black Hearts who didn't convert to the into the apparatus.
Right.
So my question is, can you show us the last panel of that comic right there? The one with the dark background at the very bottom corner. The one with the ring.
Uh, oh, the last one here.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Now the black on there is like seamless. Like you can't see like any brush strokes or anything. Would you be willing to tell us like what specifically you use to make that effect? Because when I try to use, I use these. Mm,
Uh,
it's the Pigma brush from Micron. When I try to do a black background, I can still see the black strokes. It could be because I'm just using regular paper. Is there a specific kind that you use?
well, the main thing is to lay in your heavy blacks with a brush and India ink. Kohinoor has several brands of India ink that are really good,
Mm.
and I use one that is actually for drawing on plastic, and but Kohinoor and Rapidograph, good India inks. Used to be Black Magic was a great brand of India ink, but it's not as good as it used to be, but it still works. So yeah, and that watercolor brushes, India ink. So, real black.
While we're on here, could you give a shout out to a couple of people for me?
Sure.
My friend Alex Wilford, she's an artist. I'm pretty sure she'd appreciate this. My big brother in New York, Andy, and my cousin Brian, and another friend of mine. His name's Warrote Morgan. He's not really a Dick Tracy fan, but he's one of my best friends.
You don't hold that against him.
Of course not.
I'm glad to meet them all. Well,
all right. So Lex, Brian, Andy, and War, and all my friends, Joe Staton wishes you well.
I do, yes.
My nephew is a little too young to understand that, but I'm pretty sure that if he ever watches this 20 years from now, he'll know that Uncle Jeff had his hero say hi to Ben.
Does he read comics at all, even if he doesn't read Dick Tracy?
If he does, he's pretty advanced for a 1.5-year-old. But he is extremely bright. My nephew makes me wish that
you'll have to see that he's exposed to the right things.
Oh, whether his mother likes it or not, I'm gonna do it. That's my job as an uncle.
That's your job.
Yeah, which is kind of interesting that Joe Tracy is Honeymoon's uncle, considering the age difference between the two.
That's right.
Yeah. Do you have a particular favorite character that you and Mr. Curtis created?
Abner Cadaver and Ricky. I'm really fond of them.
I like the pixie cut that Ricky has.
That's Shelley's doing. Actually, Shelley is very big on hairstyles, and sometimes when she's inking things, she'll decide that I've given a character a real dumpy hairstyle, and she'll, restyle, give them a new do. Another couple characters I like are the Nitrates, the brother and sister team.
Once responsible for Stoletta Jones's demise.
That's right. Yeah, I really like them. I think they're an extremely perverse and peculiar set of characters.
Because they were pretending to be a couple.
Right. Turns out they're actually adopted, so they're not really related. So,
you guys ever explain why Sprocket always walks around without shoes?
Actually, there was something in a flashback to when they were adopted. Her feet. There was something about her feet, but I don't think we ever entirely explained it. But you cannot get her to keep shoes on.
Well, one of my favorite characters that you guys created were actually twins. The lesbian sisters, Hot and Blaze Rise.
Right. Hot Rise and Blaze Rise, and Hot Rise was the sidekick for Flaky Biscuits.
Mm-hmm. And she drowned in a flour mill.
Yes, actually, I think that turned out all right. She didn't drown in cocaine. She actually drowned in flour.
But, yep. And Blaze only got into it for revenge. She's by day a dominatrix, and she's actually a pretty decent person. She saved Purdy Feller when Purdy's sister, not a chinchilla, went on a rampage.
Yeah, he almost came to a bad end, but she took care of him.
Yeah. I'm just like a sucker for LGBT stories along with regular romance, because you see regular romance all the time and it gets stale and boring. I mean, I'm a straight guy. I look forward to the day when I find my own Ariella Jones, but that's why in my mythos stories I have a lot of different ones. Like, for instance, I've told you my characters' relations to characters from Dick Tracy, right? That Ariella, Bella, and Nicole are the grandchildren of Sharp Top.
Yep.
Well, their cousin Magda, who is the daughter of Angel Top and the Brow's son in another timeline after Nicole saved them from themselves. I'm planning to have her be with someone who doesn't identify as a certain gender. Magda's also the half sister of High Top, and in this continuity, High Top is a very devoted big brother.
Ah,
I wanted to give those characters a second chance because they were always my favorites for your guys' run.
ah. Yeah, I always figured Blaze and
Nada.
right. Well, yeah, I thought she was a pretty sexy character. So, she's right. I think she's still out there somewhere. We haven't killed her off, have we?
Who, Blaze?
Blaze.
I don't think so. You guys gave her a meeting with Pat, Sam, and Tracy before, and I think they said that Flaky's death was ruled a heart attack.
Yeah.
So you guys let her go, and I'm really happy for that. And that picture that you guys that you drew of them as little kids, that was adorable. When you see it on the wrist genie.
Uh,
What do you think would appeal to the youth of today from Dick Tracy that other characters in comic strips and comic books can't? What do you think he has to offer?
that's really hard because Tracy is the definitely retro all the way back. There's so much design and so much cartooniness. I think there should be some relationship to anime and manga to people who would be interested in that. Should be interested in Tracy.
Well, I want to say to you something similar to what I said to Michael Bell last week. I said that to him, he was the voice director for Fox's Peter Pan and the Pirates. And he made it so that the Never Tribe, I don't call them Indians, Never Tribe, were, less racist and more human. And there's a strong amount of racism in the early Gould and UPA era. Like, for instance, the black characters, like the woman that Steve the Tramp, held a gunpoint, and that guy Memphis, the Tracy and Jr. Saw on a train, they all were in blackface and they talked in that really stupid Amos and Andy type of thing. I'm glad that you guys are being inclusive and making characters like Lee Ebony and others to be every bit as capable, if not more, than characters of Caucasian. And the fact that you include like Sam Ketchum.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's see, what was the story? Chester Gould's lawyer was Jewish and said, you don't have enough Jews in here, so that's where Sam Ketchum came from, and that Gould was specifically requested, and we have everybody get together at Sam's house for Hanukkah, and
I love that. That's awesome. What do you think Tracy and Co. would do if they were there at the Capitol on the day of the insurrection? Would they have? What do you think they would have done?
I think they would have held the door.
So instead of kicking a door open like he usually does, Tracy would barricade it for all he's worth.
Absolutely.
That's one hell of a parallel right there. My next question it has to do with George Takai. That one character, and I think he was in the Sweatbox storyline.
That's the other side, yeah.
So that's actually George Takai. And you give him a different name in the comic.
Yeah, in the strip, we originally called him Tanaka. I think it was George Tanaka, right? But by the time we're doing the reprints, George Takai and his husband Brad were very pleased with what we had done, so they thought it was fine to go ahead and call him Takai. To call him.
So how did that come about that George Takai was in your strip? Was it because of the manuscript of his life in the Japanese internment camps when he was younger?
Right. Yeah, and I'm not sure how Mike made the connections, but he worked a lot with Brad on what we were going to be including and what we wanted to people to get out of this. So we got quite a bit of reference on the camps, and so we're pleased with this one.
So Takai was like someone that you spoke with from the beginning, and he knew that you were going to put him in the strip.
Oh yeah. It he and Brad were very approving of what we were doing, and we tried to treat this storyline with definitely with respect.
What about the daughter of Boris Karloff during the gruesome storyline?
That's again, Mike knows people from, I guess, from conventions, movie conventions, and like. But he knows Sarah Karloff, and he called her up, and she was fine. And
I thought it
I
was amazing how you guys put her in there also, because
Mhm.
I've only seen Dick Tracy meets Gruesome only once or twice. I've seen
Mhm.
Frankenstein only once,
Oh,
but
really? How did that happen?
I have seen How the Grinch Stole Christmas, and I can kind of do a good Boris Karloff.
Uh,
Every who down in Whoville liked Christmas a lot, but the Grinch who lived on top of Mount Crumpet did not. The Grinch hated Christmas the whole Christmas season. Please don't ask why, no one quite knows the reason.